So I think it's just a matter of reminding ourselves and doing what we can to renew our minds, and then turning to God and saying, I need your help because I live in a fallen and broken world and I deal with a chronic disease and there's all this coming at me and I just need help. And to be prayerful and to read scripture to renew your mind, and pray to renew your mind. And those are the things that we can do, the practical things that we can do day to day.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Type 1 in Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Slemp. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14 years old and now founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa. And as a certified health coach, I know the unique challenges of managing diabetes in midlife and beyond. So I've created a coaching model that has empowered hundreds of women to thrive despite their diagnosis. And each week, I'll bring you conversations and strategies with guest experts, along with insights from my own 40 plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. I'll also share how my faith empowers me both emotionally and helps me to navigate the daily challenges. So if you're a woman ready to redefine your diabetes journey, this podcast is for you. So before we dive in, remember this podcast isn't a substitute for personalized medical advice. Always consult with your physician or medical professional before making any changes to your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, today I am super excited to welcome back Kaycee Parker as a regular guest here. With 30 years of managing type 1 diabetes since the age of 12, Kaycee brings some valuable experience and stories here with you and all of our listeners. She is also a wife, a mother, and holds a journalism degree. And continuing our series of faith and diabetes, we aim to inspire women's faith journeys. And Kaycee shares insights from her book, Devotions on Diabetes, focusing on gratitude in diabetes. So in this episode, Kaycee shares from day 9 of the book, entitled A Thankful Heart. This may sound like a hard thing to ask, and especially to do, as we know, living with type 1 doesn't necessarily give us a day off or a feeling, or leaving us with a feeling of gratitude. But listen in as we explore gratitude, managing diabetes, and how we can foster a community to help grow this within ourselves. So join us as we discuss reflection and gratitude, and take part in Kaycee's Thankful Heart Challenge. And she will walk us through how we can give gratitude to those supporting us in our diabetes journey. And just a reminder, you can connect with Kaycee, Kaycee Parker, on her website at devotionsondiabetes.com. You can read her blogs, and jump onto her Bible reading plan is also available on there. We would love to hear how today's show impacts you. You can visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com. You can leave me a message there, or take a screenshot of today's episode and share it on social media, and tag me at Blood Sugar Boss, and tag Kaycee at Devotions on Diabetes. And we hope you enjoy today's conversation with Kaycee. Nothing you hear on this Type 1 in Midlife podcast should be a substitute for professional medical advice. Please always consult your doctor before changing your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello, and we are back in here this week. Hey, Kaycee.
Hello again.
Yes. And if you are new to the show, or maybe you haven't been here for a bit, we are doing an ongoing series here on Type 1 in Midlife with Kaycee Parker. She is a mom living with type 1, minister's wife, a discipling lady, like something that we're all working on. And she's going to continue to be sharing her book, Devotions on Diabetes. And back in episode 54, if I got my numbers right, or no, it was 52. 52, because that was our 1 year anniversary here on the show, which is the best part, because you started here with episode 1. So we opened the show with you, and then 52 is how we ended it, that wasn't planned. It just happened that way. So
I noticed that. Yeah, that's great though.
that was a cool little tie-in. So today, back in episode 52, we talked about day 2 of the book. Today we're on day 9. So it is Thankful Heart. So tell me a little bit about what inspired you on this day. And if you have the book, definitely I always think this is kind of a cool way. If you're sitting in a place, obviously not driving or out walking the dog, that wouldn't probably work. Which is how I listen to podcasts. But if you are able to sit and follow along and to open up Devotions on Diabetes book, it's a perfect way to get the most out of this episode today. So tell me about day 9. Tell us about it.
Yeah, a thankful heart. I think sometimes with diabetes, we can get down on ourselves or feel like I've got it worse than other people. And just have those negative thoughts. And I think one of the ways to combat that is just to cultivate gratitude and have a thankful heart. And so that's really kind of how this came about. And there was a conversation that happened at the dinner table with my husband and our 2 little kids that kind of spurred this on as well. So you'll want to read that at the first of the
Yes. And as men generally do, and I tend to be kind of a practical thinker too, because I do look at the obvious things like, running water and electricity that we should be thankful for and not take for granted, which I think that's the first thing we should thank God for every morning, right?
Right?
Just those things that, it's so easy to take those for granted and to not appreciate. And, when I was rereading this chapter this morning, I was thinking about how those things like running water, electricity, internet, there's so many things, clothes on our back, food in the pantry, that help us, to not only feel and function better, but to support life with diabetes. So I think when we have those frustrating days, we can easily say, you know what? I really do have all that I need. And, God is giving me all the things that I need, so that those aren't things that we're having to worry or stress about. So that's definitely a takeaway I got as well. It's a good example too, when you're reading something, and the Bible is a good example of this. You can read a verse or chapter on any given day, and you will pull something different out of it. Just the way it's
that's
speaking.
So true. So true. I've had that happen so often. Yes. But yes, we're talking about, in day 9, we're talking about the things that we're thankful for. And I think, when we kind of get down on ourselves with having diabetes, we can start to think of things like, I'm glad that I can exercise to help my insulin resistance. And I'm glad that I can take insulin to manage my blood sugar. And I'm glad that I have, say, access to healthcare and all that. Like, there's just so much that we have that I think day to day we can kind of take for granted because it just becomes normal. And I think we need to take a step back and a 30,000-foot view and say, okay, this could be very hard if I didn't have X and Y and Z.
Right. And it does kind of point with anything in life, whatever comes across our aggravation list that day. It can always be worse. And there's always other things to kind of help support you through it. So what is life like? What is life with T1D like? And this is something that you recently wrote a blog. So we'll just kind of divert over to the blog that you wrote. And it does refer to your life with living with type 1 for 32 years now.
Yeah.
And what you've learned. And this definitely points to this topic as well.
Yeah, they go hand in hand, which I didn't plan. But it works really well. But yes, I just wrote a blog post that I called "What I've Learned from Living 32 Years of Life with Diabetes," because May 5th marked 32 years. And
Mm.
so we talked about it here at home, and I had been thinking about it, knowing that that was coming up. And so I just put together a few things that these are sort of big picture lessons that I've learned over the years. Some of it the hard
Mm-hmm.
way, and
Oh,
some of it you
yes.
look back and you're like, oh, I guess I learned that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that you pointed out, and again, we're going to link all this, so we definitely encourage you to check out devotionsondiabetes.com and this latest blog article, and obviously um, published this week that we're talking, but it's not going anywhere, so it's always
No.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can access that anytime. But you talked about things like the feeling of isolation. And I think this all circles back to how thankful we are, because there was a time, and I know we both talked about this earlier on shows, about how isolated we felt in the earlier years, because we're living in a whole new world right now.
Yeah.
There's not a lack of being able to connect with people. I
Right.
wonder too if and that has a lot to do with us personally too, because I know there's people that are more private in general and more private about their life with type 1 diabetes. This is an interesting segue. I just thought of it, and this is the way we roll on here. But my husband and I, we have been just meeting. We've noticed some people in our town here that live with type 1, both men and women. And if you all don't know, my husband, David, he also manages type 1 diabetes. So we were like, let's just host a social. Let's get people together. And we did. I just kind of pulled it together. I got an Evite calendar, created, and we had 7 couples. So they came, and again, it was men and women, together with their spouse. And boy, the energy and the noise in the house was unbelievable. I love it. We ended up having it here at our home. Long story short, because something fell through with the event space, but no big deal. I just had to clean the house that day. I was like, oh, darn, change it. I had to stop what I was doing and get the house spiffied up, but it all worked out. One of those things you can laugh at now, right?
That
But
sounds
gosh,
awesome.
yeah. And, that reminds me too. And there was one lady that attended who had just moved here to St. Augustine, which is where I am. And she literally just rolled into town 5 days earlier. And she was from Ohio, so a city in Ohio. And she said, this is the first time I've been in a room full of type 1, others with type 1 diabetes. She was overjoyed with gratitude.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
she was
Being able to
bold.
connect with people.
Yes. And she was bold. Again, she didn't even know me. She just saw the invitation. She said, she RSVP'd me personally. And she's like, can I come? I don't know you. So isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And yeah, and we had a chance to just bring people together that hadn't met or reconnected us all. And yeah, so that's just another example. There's ways that we can definitely feel closer to the disease in a community sense, where we're not feeling as isolated.
Absolutely. Yes. It can feel isolating. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you're right. It felt isolating to me earlier on. I lived in a small town growing up. There were not many of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so you don't know anyone else with it. And so the conversations like you and I can have, or whoever else with type
Mm-hmm.
1, or a spouse with type 1, or a kid with type 1, like we can have those conversations, but those weren't happening when I was younger. I felt
Yeah.
a lot more different, isolated, that kind of thing.
Different. Yeah. 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 I can relate to the feeling of different. Yeah.
Mhm.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Kind of felt like an oddball. I still feel like an oddball once in a while, but it doesn't have
Every
anything to
once
do
in a
with
while,
diabetes.
you just have to embrace the odd every once
Just
in a
having fun.
while. Yeah.
Yes. So the next thing that you refer to in your blog post, especially, is to give ourselves grace, to be
Yeah.
more flexible. Oh my gosh, that is a huge one, and I think it does point back to really our nature, and the way that our brain our brains and our energy is wired. But just understanding that, just to let go, and to understand that, those highs, because with me, I can just beat myself up over those high blood sugars. And it can ruin your day, but again, you have to take a step back and say, no, there's ways to fix this, to correct this, and just to separate yourself from those feelings when it does happen, just knowing that soon things will be back to normal.
Right. Yeah. And I guess when I was writing this blog post, my thought process was in this spot in the post, it doesn't do any good to beat myself
Mm-hmm.
up. It just
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't. It makes me feel bad about myself, and then I
Mm-hmm.
feel either shamed or forgetful that I didn't pre-bolus or whatever the
Right.
situation is that I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't help. And
Mm-hmm.
so in that moment, you just have to do the next right thing. Just pick something that you're like, okay, this is the right direction, and this is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do.
Yeah.
Um, sure, maybe think about a way to prevent something from happening in the future. Okay. But in that moment, we can't beat ourselves up about it because that doesn't change anything. That just
It
makes it
doesn't
feel
change it.
worse.
That's right. Yeah. 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 But all that does is it just surmounts the feelings. So
Yeah.
yeah. And that can take time for any of us and on any given day to give ourselves that grace and that assurance. I think there's so much pressure, I think, even within ourselves, we're our own worst critic, I think, when it
Yes.
comes to the expectations. And I know we talked about that on day 2 is setting those
Mm-hmm.
expectations.
Yeah.
But we have to think about what's happening in the doctor's office, what they're expecting from us, what we're expecting from ourselves with our average blood sugar and all of that, and just to know that every day that we can be thankful for what we are doing every day, for that long term
Mhm.
health.
Right.
And it's different for everybody. I know as we're getting older, I know with myself, you and I both, we've been at this over 30 years, 40 years for myself. That's a lot of years that we think is just accumulating. And it seems like we're looking at all those aches and pains or all those things that are just like that could be related to complications. I don't know. It's amazing how our brain can just get on this whirlwind about over worrying. And I think that does point back to just giving it up and
Mm.
just relying on God that He's giving us the tools. He's giving us His love and His guidance to just rest in Him and to not worry. And another thing was that you mentioned was just talking about renewing to renew our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really good. We need to focus on the truth of
Yeah.
of what we're facing that day, or what's available for us to be able to fix a blood sugar or our mood or our energy, whatever. Something that popped out at me too with this is that obsessive comparison disorder. Um,
I
right.
love how you say that.
Yes. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't term that. Actually, my pastor at church did. So it's the OCD is not compulsive; it's comparison, and and that can be a slippery slope with diabetes, especially. You
Oh, for
know,
sure.
and that's one of the maybe the downsides to online communities or
That's what I was
the
just going to say.
space. Yeah, yeah. So what do you think about that? So how do
Yeah.
we just lie in gratitude with what we are doing rather than trying to compare it
Mhm.
to the
Yeah.
one that we see online?
Yeah, no, it's great to have that community. But that is, social media is all comparison and you're seeing everyone's best day. No
Mm-hmm.
one's chiming in saying, my blood sugar is 240. No one is saying that. No one's
It's
bragging
true.
about that. So I think the best thing that we can do is just be real and encourage people. I mean, that's all we can do on this whole journey, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is truly where I am. This is my struggle. And that can change from time to time. But if we could just be real with ourselves and real with our doctors and with other people, diabetes isn't perfect. It won't ever be perfect. And so to put on that facade it just isn't true to yourself or to other people. And so I think the more that we can be real with ourselves and with others, and the more we can just encourage each other without judgment. Has my blood sugar been 240? Of course it has.
Mm-hmm.
We have diabetes. That's the problem,
Yeah,
right? And so the more that
exactly.
we can just, relate to other people and encourage them, and say, hey, me too, I know it, and we're going to get
Yeah.
through this. That's the best
Yeah.
thing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And one of the one of the verses that you referred to, it might have been in the book, it might have been in the blog, but either way, it's very fitting. So it's Romans 12:2.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Mhm.
Um, there's there's a lot to that.
There is a lot to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it reminds me also of the verse that says we're to take every thought captive to Christ. And so when we find ourselves in that comparison trap, that's not what God wants for us.
Mm.
Jesus didn't say compare yourself to everyone else and just be better. That's not the deal. So I think it's just a matter of reminding ourselves and doing what we can to renew our minds, and then turning to God and saying, I need your help because I live in a fallen and broken world and I deal with a chronic disease and there's all this coming at me
Mm.
and I just need help. And
Yeah.
to be prayerful and to read scripture to renew your mind, and pray to
Mm.
renew your mind. And those are
Mm.
the things that we can do, the practical things that we can do day to day.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So, how can we and the listeners, how can we give thanks? This is
Mhm.
interesting. I think we can both think of people that have endured something very, very, whether it's a disease, a death in the family, something tragic that has happened. And obviously when it's happening and we're in it, it's tragic, and there's pain. God does not want us to be in pain. He, eventually with time, and that pain will ease and go away. So when you think about a disease that doesn't go away,
Mm.
I think that is the hardest thing, because and it depending on really where your heart and your hope is, with those of us that are that are here and listening to this, you know pointing to something that could actually be good from your diagnosis. I know
Mhm.
that's something that I've had to do, and it's just been recent for me. This was not my wasn't my journey from the beginning either. I've learned a lot. So just like you were saying before, all the tragic things that happened to me that was related to, in my case, low blood sugar. And in another case, it was high blood sugar, because that led to my diabetic retinopathy early on. So all those things just kind of fueled, and in one case, it was more anger and, resentment around this thing I've got to take care of every day. And
Mhm.
then as time went on and I was able to get a better handle on just who I was and why I'm here and my purpose, realizing that God really did give me this is a gift. And I know you can feel the same way. This is a gift. There's a reason that we have this disease, and we can use it for good.
Mhm.
And that doesn't make it easy, but that sure
No.
makes me a lot more thankful. And his trust and his knowing of who we are
Mhm.
and our gifts, to be able to use this to share and to help inspire others.
There's a lot that I have learned through this. There are people that I've met through this,
Mm-hmm.
of this as well. There's good. There is absolutely good. And so you just have to look for the good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
something I talked about in my blog post as well, about, life with diabetes. I've just learned over the years to look for the good, because you can look for the negative, it's everywhere. You'll have no trouble finding that.
Mm-hmm.
But to train your mind to look for the good, to renew your mind.
Yeah, yeah. And we can it's amazing. Because God is here to give us power over evil, because he is there, no matter what, he's going to overcome, the devil and those negative thoughts and those things that are, because that lack of spirit, that darkness, is always going to be there. And, whether it's around us or in us, in the world and all of that, but it's always going to be present. But that's why it's just, to me, it's just so amazing to be able to have prayer and my faith to carry in my back pocket all the time, because I'll tell you what, most days of the week, that devil is on that. He's tapping on you. He's trying to, bring you down. He's trying to bring in more darkness. He's trying to overcome those things that we know that we are thankful and grateful for. So I think that is another thing. And that's, again, as my faith has grown over these years, that has what's really kind of boosted me to this level of, okay, there is a purpose, behind all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just, and I know sometimes that's hard for people to kind of envision, depending on where you are. But just, we hope that, what we share, and, for Kaycee and I, we're here we're sharing what's worked and what continues to work. And we know this to be the truth.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen time after time after time, God works through hard things and challenges and sad things and struggles. And I mean, it's just, if you look for it, you're going to find it, right? We were just talking about, if you look for the negative, you're going to find it. And if you look for the good, you're going to find it, because he's always at work.
Yeah. And you refer to Psalm 100. And I don't, yeah, I think you did list
that. Was in the book.
Yes, that was in the book. And that is, and it's not a very long section at all. But yeah, but basically his steadfast love endures forever. So it's the Psalm for giving thanks. So that is a really good one to look at. Maybe something to look at every morning this week. Maybe.
Yeah.
I know I have certain
every
verses
morning. Oh, what a good idea.
Yeah, right. Just, maybe find a way to print that and stick it on your fridge, or, someplace that you're near every day, and just get that reminder every day, for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, I know. Because I love it.
I know. Sometimes it's like hour to hour renewal, right? I mean, on hard days, it's like renew, reset.
Come back in. That's right. Fill my heart, fill my head. Now I need it. I need, please, I need your help. Yeah. So something else you were talking about too, in your blog, was the 100 years with insulin. So, and that was in the 20s, right? And was it 23?
Yes.
Am I right about that? 1923?
I have in my book and
like
the blog that it was 21. I hope I'm not wrong, because it's printed.
Oh no. Yeah. Oh no. I'm
sorry.
No, for some reason I had 23 in my head, but that means absolutely nothing. So if you've got it, you've got it. So yeah, so we're a little bit over 100 years now. Yeah, my goodness,
100 years. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
And
I'm just so thankful. I mean, my heart breaks for those innocent people that have had diabetes before the invention of insulin. It's just, I mean, they did nothing. And my heart breaks for those people. But at the same time, I'm very thankful that we do have insulin, and that it works, and that it can really manage diabetes. It's just, you can live with diabetes, and with all the medical advances, we can live full lives. And it's beautiful. It's very hard and very beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, I like that. So at the end of day 9, in the book, you gave us some ways to give gratitude for God's guidance and love through our challenges. And it's really nice how you just left us with a prayer. To me, I call it a prayer. It's like your own ode, your own oath. And that would be a nice thing to read on a daily basis too. And something else that you have attached to this blog article is a thankful heart challenge. And all this is tied. So tell us about that, and how we can kind of utilize that, or do that.
Yeah, this is just how I wrapped up my look back on 32 years with diabetes. I think, like we've been talking about, it's a struggle sometimes to have a thankful heart in the midst of a chronic illness. And it made me think about the Bible reading plan that I had created, that's on my website, just a free download about how to have a thankful heart and verses we can read to help us have a thankful heart. And so I've got that linked in the blog post as well. But I just kind of posed a challenge to anyone that read this post, um, that I just called the Thankful Heart Challenge. And the challenge is to reach out to family members, maybe a friend, a coworker, someone on your diabetes care team who just has been really instrumental in your diabetes care. Someone who's
Mm,
really made a difference, just to let them know that you're grateful, that you're appreciative, that they have been helpful, that they've been
mm,
a listening ear, whatever the situation might be. But if you can just, take, it probably wouldn't even take 30 seconds to think of somebody who has been supportive, right?
mhm.
And so the idea is to reach out to them, to call them on the phone. Phones do work that way, right? We don't just have to text,
Right.
but we could
Yes.
we could call on the phone, or we could write out a letter or a card or just
Hmm.
something that expresses our gratitude, because
Yeah.
it is a wonderful practice to practice gratitude, but it also makes such an impact on that person to know that they have been appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Good example of how giving, not obviously it helps us tremendously, but yeah, the person on the other end. And you mentioned phone call, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. But even if you left a phone, a voicemail,
Yeah.
a phone message, just expressing, your love and appreciation for them and what they've done. And obviously people that we live with, which are closest to us, that just to take that time and say, hey, I really appreciate your love and patience and all of that. So I love that. That's a really, really good tool.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you leave us with today? Is there any other? I know there are some. I'm looking at them as I'm looking in the book. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of day 9, there was some verses in here that you referred to,
Mm-hmm.
again, to kind of just mount our gratitude and just kind of build up that, kind of fill the toolbox. So
Yeah.
let's fill that gratitude toolbox. So can
Yeah.
you mention?
Oh, sure. Part of the additional readings that I mentioned at the end of the chapter include Psalm 136, verse 1. And this kind of a verse is found several times in the Psalms. I love reading the Psalms.
Mhm.
But this one in particular says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever." And so
Mm,
I think if we can just tuck that away in our heart and remember, even on the bad days, even on this struggle, his love endures forever. And we should be thankful because he is good, regardless of
mm,
diabetes, regardless of the challenge, regardless of what we're facing. He doesn't change. He's always
mhm,
good and his love lasts forever.
mhm. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things here, in your book, is how you have the reading prompts and then you have the reflection part, to be able to just kind of write down your thoughts. And like I have done, and I think I talked about this on day 2, in the last episode, and I did not write reflections on every day, but both of these 2 days I did. So I guess there's something about it. Yeah, so it's just so neat to look back on what you were thinking and feeling on that day,
Yeah.
and to reflect on on how things were and how are things now. And yeah, it's just amazing. I love it. I
Mhm.
love it. It's such a good thing to have on hand and to keep utilizing.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Nice. Well, thank you for being here once again. So we encourage everybody. Do you have any last things that we can walk away with today?
I mean, we've mentioned several resources and I know you're linking them all. So I feel like whatever you want, you're gonna have. And
Mm-hmm.
you can click and download or click and read and do whatever you need. But my hope always when we come together is just that it encourages people.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. And that's our purpose here is, just to come in and have a conversation and just to suggest some things that work for us and many people that we know as well, and that we invite you to take part as well. So the book is, again, Devotions on Diabetes. You can find it on her website. You can find Kaycee online, on Instagram as well. Again, we link all this. I love all your handles are the same. Boy, that makes it easy, right?
Right? Yeah.
Easy to find. And yeah, reach out and let us know what you think about this. And, we would love it if you would maybe send us a DM on Instagram or send us a message on either of us, like on our websites. So the show is Type 1 and Midlife on the abundanthealthwithmelissa.com website, and send us a message and how this topic helped you today, and share what you are grateful for. Yes. We would love to get a list. And again, that encourages everybody. And obviously it can definitely be diabetes related, because we mentioned many things that are associated with caring for this disease every day. But there's definitely some things in life that maybe you had forgotten about. So hopefully this conversation today just kind of opened that up for you as well. So, well, thanks again, Kaycee. Until next time, we will, yeah. And I'm going to give the readers, gosh, I've got blog on my head. I'm going to give the listeners a sneak peek. So, and just to say too, we're not jumping around in the book with the different chapters on purpose. We're just doing it based on what we are feeling at the time. So if there's a specific day in the book that you would like us to focus on, send us a message.
Yeah.
So our next day, we're going to be doing day 27 in our next time here together. And the topic of that chapter is building trust. So that's going to be a conversation. Yeah. That's just a little, yeah. So, and again, send us your ideas, because, we are here for you. We are here for you in the community, and we love hearing from you. So until next time, everybody have an amazing, blessed day. Feel thankful and have lots of gratitude and love, and reach out to those ones, all those people in your life that you are grateful for, and send them a message. It's going to make you feel amazing, and it's going to make them feel even better. So, okay. Until next time, bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. We are so grateful for the time that we spent together today. And if this conversation resonated with you, or you just love connecting with others living with T1D, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. Your feedback helps us reach more people who need this community and resources. And if you realize you need more support than you're currently getting, remember, you don't have to struggle alone. Visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for free resources on mastering type 1 diabetes in menopause, and to stay connected and learn about my coaching programs. We look forward to being together next Monday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Remember that together we can age gracefully with type 1 diabetes.